On this show, we visit with filmmaker and artist Stephen Vernoa in his beautiful Bel Air home, which was featured on the TV show The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. This Renaissance man launched the careers of Sylvester Stallone and others with his film The Lords of Flatbush. He makes his own furniture, including this bridge, and he's an internationally known photographer and painter. But Stephen just calls himself a picture maker, and I ask him why.
Well, I used to make movies. Before I made the movie, I would draw the film, storyboard it. When I paint, I would draw first.
The Lords of Flatbush, which is really a classic now, 70s film, launched a lot of careers. Who are some of the people that were in that movie?
Well, Sylvester Stallone, Henry Winkler, Perry King, Susan Blakely, Armand DeSanti. I don't know if you remember Paul Jabara, who went on to, he wrote a song for the movie as well as played the fifth Lord. There were four in the motorcycle jackets, and then there was Paul in a police athletic league jacket. And I asked Paul to write a song for the movie, which he did, and it became the start of his musical career. He went on to write Last Dance for Donna Summer, and Evergreen for Barbra Streisand, and It's Raining Men, and
all my
he was
favorites.
great. He was great. He was the king of the disco. Unfortunately, he was taken by AIDS, but he was fabulous.
Launched his career and
Launched
lot
his,
of
and then
other...
Joe Brooks did the rest of the songs in the film, and Joe went on to do You Light Up My Life and win an Academy Award as well. They were not my first choices.
Really? How about the actors? Were they your first choices?
Sly was.
When he walked in the door, what had he done before? Some stage?
Nothing. He didn't walk in the door. I found him on stage.
Really?
What happened
was
I was looking for actors. I had written my script. I was looking for someone, and I was auditing all the acting workshops.
That's great.
Now, I was Lee Strasberg's protege at the Actors Studio, so I was at the studio a lot. Then I went over to Herbert Berghoff's HB Studios. Herbert Berghoff, Anuta Hagen.
Anuta Hagen,
And there was someone in the class who I know, who's now a pretty good director, named John Hirschfeld, was performing. And he was doing a scene, and he was supposed to do it with someone in the class. And he did it with Sly, and Sly was not in the class. And Herbert Berghoff said, you have to use people in this workshop, that's what this is all about, and let's go on, who else is prepared? And as serendipity, no one else was prepared. And so, to kill the couple of hours in the class, Herbert let Sly and John get up on stage. And Sly was magnetic.
Really?
And we talked, came back to my apartment afterwards, we talked some more. He was my Stanley for the role. And Stanley was named after Stanley Kowalski from Streetcar Named Desire. And it was a little thing that we threw in. And it was originally Sly and Richard Gere.
Really?
And we worked together on and off for months and months, rehearsing, improvising, etc. They did not get along very well. And I brought in Perry King. And the reason was I wanted a blonde.
No, had Richard Gere been working?
Richard hadn't done anything.
He hadn't done
yet.
anything either.
And the funny thing was that I had gotten a call from Terrence Malick, who did Badlands. And he had said that he was going to do this movie, and the actor he was interested in only had one credit, and that was he was fired by Stephen Verona. And he ended up hiring Richard Gere for Days of Heaven. And
wow.
Anyway, Richard's done great. I mean, right through now, through Chicago.
Chicago, right.
I mean, you know, he just wasn't right for that film, you know, for my film at that time. Because if he and Sly did not see eye to eye either. Henry Winkler walked in, and obviously that was fortuitous for everyone. Then I brought in Perry King, and let's see, Armand DeSanti was cut out. He was in the wedding scene at the end of the movie.
And you're still friends with all these people?
Armand I never really knew, but Perry, yes, Sly, yes, you know, Susan Blakely, who I knew from commercials.
And why Flatbush?
That's where I grew up.
Really?
Yeah.
And the Lords of Flatbush
was a gang that I was in, and We were paper hitters. We were not like you have today.
What's a paper hitter?
Harmless. It was more role playing, you know.
Knocking over trash cans.
No, yeah.
Goofing off, yeah.
In those days, you had two choices. You were either Ivy League or you were,
really,
you know, Marlon Brando on the Wild One.
And that was
I
more
chose
fun.
exactly.
Yeah.
They got the girls.
Yeah, they got the girls.
And then later I went to Bohemian.
Oh, I see, right.
I got in trouble, like you do when you're in a gang. It has to be. And I was sent for vocational guidance, and the vocational guidance said send him to art school. My mother didn't believe that I should go to art school. She thought that art school you were going to be gay and starved. Well, I liked women and I liked money, so I was worried. And anyhow, that's when I went from black leather to corduroy. You know? And so my hair got longer and started wearing corduroy and patches on my sleeves and smoked a pipe for a while.
And this was in New York?
The School of Visual Arts in New York.
That's great.
Which was an awakening.
I bet.
Visual Arts was the first and only school ever closed by McCarthy for communism.
Really?
It was originally called the School of Cartooning and Illustrating. And when I went, it was an old bank building on the corner of 23rd and 2nd. And then it's moved to the middle of the block, and now it's a big university. But when I went, it was much more intimate. And
when you were studying art, what were you doing at the time? Were you painting?
I was painting and
photography?
Photography, and then I bought a 16mm camera. And that's really changed my life. I started to do a lot of film. And because I didn't have money, but I could draw, I started to do animated films. And that's how I went into doing video.
Yep, you did some very famous music videos before they were music videos.
Yeah.
They were called what?
Promotion films.
Promotion films for?
Well, there was a thing called Scopatone, which was a jukebox that had 16mm film. You put in a quarter and you saw a song. Sort of like a video on a screen. But I did them originally. I did the one for the Beatles just for the hell of it, because I had met John Lennon. And I was directing Ford commercials at the time. And I was in London and I met John. And John gave me the rights to the song, I Feel Fine. When he gave it to me, I didn't know it was called I Feel Fine. I thought it was called She Said So.
Oh, right, because that's part of the lyric.
The lyric.
Right, right.
And it was just a tape in a white box, you know.
Really?
Not the white album that the Beatles did later, but...
It hadn't been recorded yet?
It had been recorded, but it hadn't been released. Or it might have been released, but I didn't know. I only had the tape that John gave me.
Right.
And so when I listened to that, I thought it was called She Said So. So if you watch the film, it says She Said So.
And then how was John Lennon? What type of person was he?
Well, I mean, John and I met at this discotheque in the 60s. I got the rights. I did the drawings for this film. He came over to my apartment and we colored them in.
Really?
2 years ago, in the summer of 2001, I sold the book of drawings at Christie's in an auction for the highest price. And
can you tell?
It was $58,500 for a little book of very simple drawings, but they were colored in
by John Lennon.
So that's $58,000 right there. The $500 was for me.
Right.
No, and then someone tried selling it to Yoko as John's drawings, but she knew they weren't his drawings.
She knew because she knew you, didn't she?
Well, she didn't know me. I didn't.
But she just wrote you a letter recently,
She wrote me
right?
a letter thanking me when I helped her on this situation. Her lawyer called and said, "Is it all right if I put her on?" And I said, "Sure." And
that's great.
That was it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And so, what were some of the other music videos that you did?
Well,
And this was the 70s, right?
65 is when I started with the Beatles, 65, 66, and then I did the Love and Spoonful. One of the singers just passed away last week, 2 weeks ago. Zal Aronofsky, I think his name was. I can't remember his name, but he was quite something. And anyway, so the Love and Spoonful, then I did Jay and the Americans, Paul Simon, Leonard Bernstein, Dylan, Chicago, Santana, Streisand. I mean,
what was